This is the Sleep Historian. Each night we explore the echoes of the past, stories told slowly to calm the mind and ease you towards sleep. If you enjoy these quiet journeys through time, please like and subscribe, and let the next story begin. Before anything else, before steel or steam or ambition, there is water. Dark, cold, and endlessly patient, the North Atlantic lies in quiet motion. Currents drift under a low blanket of cloud. Above, the early 20th century is on the horizon, an age certain it has mastered both distance and nature. A faint shape emerges through this stillness, a curved bow resting on the seabed, half buried in silt. Light from a submersible sweeps across steel softened by time, revealing railings twisted gently by pressure, and portholes staring into darkness like tired eyes. It is 1985. The world has just rediscovered Titanic. Her story, long scattered across memory and myth, rises again, not as wreckage, but as a reminder of the moment humanity believed the ocean had been tamed. Let us drift back, slowly, to the beginning, to the age that dreamed it could conquer the sea. The early 20th century carries a confident rhythm. Cities hum with electricity, factories pulse with machinery, and nations compete in steel and steam. The Atlantic, once a barrier, has become a moving walkway for liners cutting across it in days instead of weeks. In this world of expanding horizons, shipping magnates imagine something new. Not the fastest ship, but the grandest. A floating city where the journey itself feels like progress. On drawing boards in Belfast and boardrooms in London, an idea takes shape. A ship so large it will shift the balance of maritime travel. So comfortable it will reshape expectations. So advanced that danger seems like a relic of an older age. They give the concept a name filled with certainty and scale. Titanic. Time drifts backward, and the dark seabed fades into pale morning light. You find yourself above the River Lagan in Belfast, in the year 1909. Mist hangs low over the shoreline, catching the glow of furnaces already burning within Harland and Wolff's vast shipyard. The world here wakes early. Steam curls above chimneys, hooves clatter on cobbles, and men in flat caps move with practiced steps through the yard gates. Ahead, rising through the haze, stands an immense structure of girders and crossbeams, the Arrol Gantry. It stretches into the sky like a cathedral of steel, built to cradle two giants the world has not yet seen. At its base lies a single straight line of metal, resting quietly on wooden blocks. Titanic is only a keel for now, but the scale of what will grow from it already bends the imagination. Walk closer, and the noise gathers around you. Hammer strikes fall in uneven rhythms. Sparks burst and fade. White-hot rivets arc through the air and are caught deftly in buckets before cooling. Teams work with a choreography shaped by experience. Heaters tend the glowing rivets. Holders-on brace metal from one side. Riveters press hammers to the other, sealing red-hot steel into place. The hull plates, leaning upright in tall stacks, smell faintly of oil and salt from the sea breeze. Each piece waits like a puzzle segment, marked and measured to become part of a shape no one can yet fully picture. A floating city, an engineered dream. The cold morning grows warmer as the hull begins to rise. Under the vast gantry, perspective shifts. From high above, narrow walkways cross like threads in a loom. Workers move along them in small silhouettes, steady, careful shapes against the open air. From below, the growing hull feels immense, its curve beginning to form, its ribs arcing upward like the frame of a giant creature. A soft drizzle begins. It taps lightly on steel, turning dust to dark speckles and collecting in tiny, trembling beads along exposed beams. Nothing stops. The work continues. Rain, wind, or shine. This shipyard hums with a sense of purpose, as if driven by something larger than any single man working within it. Step away from the noise and into the drawing office. A world transformed. The air here smells of ink, wood shavings, and paper kept carefully flat under brass weights. Draftsmen lean over long desks, their pencils moving with steady certainty. Lines become curves, curves become compartments, and compartments become the architecture of a ship. A finished blueprint lies unrolled across a table, the ship sliced into decks and volumes. Light from tall windows falls across it, revealing the logic beneath Titanic's elegance. One designer adjusts the spacing of cabins, another debates ventilation with a colleague. A third marks the angle of a staircase landing that will, one day, be admired for its grace. The shipyard builds with steel. This quiet room builds with thought. Far below the gantry, deep inside the emerging hull, the engines and boilers take shape. A heat different from the morning air radiates from the foundry, where massive components cool after casting. Boiler shells lie like sleeping cylinders, their interiors dark and echoing. Behind them, rows of fire tube openings promise the force that will one day push Titanic across an ocean. Engineers in rolled sleeves step between the machinery frames, tapping, measuring, noting imperfections. Their voices are low and focused, confident, but aware of the responsibility carried in every length of pipe and every rivet holding pressure at bay. This is the hidden heart of the ship, the place where movement will begin. As months pass, the ship grows outward and upward. Walk the length of the slipway, and the scale becomes difficult to hold in a single thought. Titanic stretches almost 300 meters, long enough to make people look twice to reassure themselves they've seen correctly. The hull no longer looks like a frame. It looks like a barrier of steel rising into the gray Belfast sky. Scaffolding wraps around it. Tools hang from hooks. Buckets, cables, and planks form a forest of shapes at its feet. The tide moves quietly nearby, unaware of the ambition towering beside it. Inside, decks begin to layer themselves, a floating architecture taking form. Now drift forward to 31 May 1911. The air is sharp with excitement. Crowds gather along the railings. Families, shipbuilders, officials, curious locals. Children sit on their parents' shoulders. Newspapers have already called Titanic the largest moving object ever built. The hull gleams with fresh paint. The name, Titanic, stands proud on her bow in gold letters. There is no champagne ceremony here. Harland and Wolff favors the quiet dignity of competence. A whistle sounds. Wedges are knocked free, and the great hull begins to slide. It moves faster than most expect, a controlled, heavy rush. Water rises in white foam along its sides as Titanic enters the fitting out basin, meeting the river for the first time. The cheer that follows rolls like a wave. In the basin, everything feels calmer. Titanic floats now, but she is far from complete. Tugs adjust her position with slow, deliberate movements. Ropes tighten. Engines rumble low like distant thunder. Inside the hull, work resumes immediately. Electricians feed cables through bulkheads. Carpenters shape paneling for grand rooms. Painters prepare wide pale decks. Metal workers align pipes for freshwater systems. Lifeboat davits are assembled along the upper deck. A ship has been born, but her character, the world she will carry within, still lies ahead. Titanic waits quietly, a promise taking shape in calm water. Inside Titanic, the air changes. The metallic scent of the shipyard fades into something gentler, a mix of varnish, sawdust, fresh paint, and newly opened crates. Corridors are still lined with temporary lamps, their warm glow catching dust drifting in slow spirals. Workers move through unfinished spaces with steady purpose. Some carry rolls of carpet, others lift carved panels wrapped in linen. In the grand staircase void, scaffolding rises beneath the future glass dome, where sunlight will one day fall in a patterned halo. For now, the sound is a soothing chorus of sanding, hammer taps, and quiet conversations about measurements and materials. Luxury is emerging, not as opulence but as craftsmanship. Walk into the first-class corridors, and the ship begins to reveal its intentions. Light touches pale wood panels, each fitted by hand. Door frames lead onto rooms in the process of becoming suites. Louis XVI here, Georgian next door, Italian Renaissance down the hall, as if Titanic carries fragments of Europe across the Atlantic. Stewards stand beside crates labeled fragile, checking lists for wardrobes, chairs, writing desks. A crate opens to reveal polished brass fixtures that catch the lamplight like warm fire. Where months ago there were only ribs of steel, now there is texture, soft fabrics, velvet tones, glimpses of a world designed to make passengers feel effortlessly at home. Further inside, the dining saloon stretches almost the full width of the ship. A vast, elegant room shaped not just for meals, but for ritual. Pillars rise in neat rows. Ceiling panels, carved and painted, soften the space so it feels less like a ship and more like a grand hotel, quietly floating on the sea. Crates of porcelain and silver rest on long tables awaiting arrangement. Stewards practice navigating the rows, imagining them full of conversation, the clink of cutlery, the rustle of linen, the organized rhythm of service. Even in its unfinished state, the room holds an atmosphere of anticipation. Descend to second class and the tone shifts. Simpler but thoughtful. Cabins are modest, with clean wood trim and 2 or 4 berths to a room. Washstands with small mirrors wait against the walls. The lighting here is softer, practical and steady. In the library, chairs are arranged beneath a patterned ceiling, not lavish but dignified. Shelves will soon hold books that will travel side by side with hopeful passengers. Business travelers, families, students, ministers. You sense comfort here, a gentler version of Titanic's luxury, designed for those who expect little more than reliability and peace during their crossing. Now continue downward into third class, a different world, but filled with its own beating heart. Corridors branch like narrow alleyways. Dormitory rooms line one side, while small family cabins sit along another. Iron beds, plain but sturdy, wait for the blankets that will soon arrive by the cartload. In the general room, benches and tables stand in neat rows. A small group of workers eat their midday meal here, amid the tools and half-finished shelves. They speak of home, Ireland, Norway, Sweden, rural England, and of passengers who will soon carry their hopes to America. This level tells a different story. Not leisure, but transformation. Not wealth, but possibility. Behind doors, passengers rarely notice, lies the crew's domain. Narrow passageways branch into bunk rooms stacked 2 or 3 levels high. Lockers line the walls, each with chalk markings waiting to be replaced by names. The mess rooms smell faintly of new pine and soap. Down another corridor, deeper still, the stokeholds and boiler rooms await their purpose. The air here is cool, for now, but soon it will press with heat and the glow of coal-fed furnaces. Officers' quarters sit closer to the bridge, brighter, tidier, with the hum of responsibility threaded into the silence. Here, hierarchy is built not only into roles, but into space itself. Step into the bridge area, still quiet, still being arranged. Polished telegraphs stand ready to send commands downward. The wheelhouse smells of varnished wood and clean brass. Windows overlook the empty basin beyond, where tugs glide past in slow patterns. An officer runs his hand along the edge of a chart table, checking for any roughness. Another tests the compass housing to ensure the glass moves smoothly. From here, Titanic will one day navigate narrow rivers, busy harbors, and an entire ocean. But tonight, the deck outside holds only ropes, crates, and the soft shuffle of workers finishing their tasks. Finally, stand on the boat deck in the cool Belfast wind. Lifeboat davits rise along the rails, their arms swung inward. Carpenter's marks still show where fittings need adjustment. The promenade lies clean and pale under the afternoon light. 4 funnels tower above, their buff color warm against the sky. Below them, the ship's superstructure stretches forward and aft, a landscape of fresh planking and white paint, still drying in patches. Soon Titanic will leave Belfast for sea trials, then cross to Southampton for her maiden voyage. But in this moment, with gulls circling quietly overhead and tools hanging from rails, she feels like something suspended between imagination and reality. A ship fully built, but not yet alive. Spring arrives quietly in 1912. Across newspapers and conversation, Titanic is spoken of with admiration and a kind of soft certainty. She is large, modern, beautifully appointed, the product of a world that believes progress is both natural and inevitable. Few mention lifeboats beyond the legal minimums. Regulations consider tonnage, not actual capacity. Such details feel academic in an age where serious disasters have grown rare. Titanic's strength seems almost assumed, not proclaimed, not shouted, simply woven into everyday confidence. And with that quiet belief, preparations for her maiden voyage begin. Drift now to the White Star offices in London and Southampton. Schedules are finalized, cargo lists fill ledger pages, mail contracts are checked and signed, provisioning orders move between clerks, food, linens, thousands of pieces of china, thousands more of cutlery. Posters in display windows show a graceful silhouette cutting across a calm sea. The crossing is marketed as elegant, smooth, efficient, a routine journey, elevated by scale and beauty. Behind the scenes, officers walk through checklists, quartermasters review charts, wireless operators confirm equipment. Everything feels practiced. Titanic may be new, but the rhythm of preparing a liner is familiar. In this rhythm stands Captain Edward Smith. Near the end of a long, distinguished career, he has crossed the Atlantic many times. On Majestic, Baltic, and most recently, Olympic, Titanic's sister ship. To passengers, he appears calm and composed, a living reassurance of professionalism. To sailors, he is steady, experienced, unflappable. Taking Titanic to New York will be the capstone of his years at sea. A final voyage on the largest ship yet built, entrusted to a captain known for careful judgment. Charts are reviewed, instruments checked, routines refreshed. Everything is ready. The morning of 10 April 1912 arrives with a pale Southampton light. The tide smells of mud and coal smoke. Passengers gather at the quayside, some excited, some nervous, others simply relieved to be boarding. Porters wheel trunks across the cobbles. Families say long farewells. Children cling to hands before releasing them with sudden bravery. Above it all, Titanic's hull rises like a dark cliff, portholes glinting in the soft daylight. First-class passengers are guided through private entrances. Third-class travelers join slower-moving queues, yet all feel the same low thrum of anticipation as they step aboard, each bringing a private story into a shared space. Inside the ship, the engines stir, a deep, steady vibration spreading through the decks. Tugs ease Titanic away from the quay. Some passengers wave, others simply watch the shoreline shift and recede. Along the harbor, warehouses slide past. The water churns beneath the great hull. A brief moment of tension occurs as the suction from Titanic's movement pulls a smaller ship, New York, dangerously close. Ropes snap, horn blasts echo, and tugs surge forward to steady her. In the end, no damage comes. But for a few minutes, the harbor holds its breath, reminded of Titanic's immense power. Then the journey continues. From Southampton to Cherbourg, from Cherbourg to Queenstown, the voyage settles into place. Mailbags are loaded. Final passengers arrive. A few late travelers hurry aboard after tearful goodbyes at the Irish coast. Once Titanic leaves Queenstown, land fades behind her. The open Atlantic stretches ahead in long silver swells. On board, routines form like quiet tides. Breakfast in the dining saloon, walks on the boat deck, tea served in the lounges, fresh air on the forward well deck, children exploring staircases and promenades. Life finds its rhythm at sea. One day passes gently beneath a broken sky. Morning light catches spray at the bow as the ship cuts through calm water. Children play games along the deck, their laughter carried by cold air. Stewards bring rugs to passengers settling into deck chairs. Conversations drift. Business, politics, plans for New York. Deep below, in a world hidden from view, stokers feed coal into glowing furnaces. Heat presses outward in waves. Engines turn in disciplined cadence, their vibrations a constant heartbeat beneath every room. Two worlds, one ship, luxury above, labor below, each essential to the other. Evening falls with unusual clarity. The sea turns dark and smooth, reflecting stars as if the sky has doubled. Electric lights glow softly along the superstructure, painting warm halos on polished wood and brass. Music drifts from the first-class lounge, threads of melody carried across quiet decks. In the wireless room, messages crackle, personal telegrams, routine traffic, occasional reports of ice. Signals are acknowledged, logged, and set aside for the bridge. Passengers see only the calm, a peaceful ocean beneath a clean, starlit sky. Titanic sails onward, steady and confident, into the hours still ahead. Night settles gently over the North Atlantic. The sea lies almost unnaturally still, a polished surface reflecting constellations with perfect clarity. The air carries a deep, quiet cold, the kind that sharpens breath and slows movement. Passengers strolling the decks pull coats tighter, but admire the beauty of the evening. Some linger by the railings, watching the faint shimmer of starlight on water. Others retreat indoors to lounges, where music, warmth, and soft conversation continue. In the wireless room, messages about ice drift in among the usual traffic. Coordinates, warnings, notes from passing ships, part of the constant hum of communication at sea. Titanic moves forward steadily, her bow dividing calm water with barely a ripple. Up on the bridge, officers stand watch in silence. The open wings of the bridge admit the night air. Its coldness is bracing, carrying the faint scent of the sea. Their eyes remain adjusted to darkness. Lamps are hooded to avoid glare. Far above in the crow's nest, two lookouts scan the horizon. Their ears pick up only the faint hum of wind and machinery below. No waves, no surf, no indication of anything ahead. There are no binoculars tonight, but the visibility seems clear, the horizon open and uncomplicated. Titanic continues at a comfortable pace, her engines turning with calm regularity. Then, quietly, something changes. Through the starlit stillness, one lookout notices a faint pale shape on the water. Not bright, not sharp, but present. A color slightly different from the night around it. A bell rings 3 times. A telephone call is made to the bridge. Iceberg, right ahead. On the bridge, officers respond in disciplined sequence. Wheel turned hard to starboard, engines ordered astern. Commands pass down through metal, through cables, through machinery warming with sudden purpose. Titanic begins to turn, but every large ship carries momentum like a shadow. Her response is strong, but not instant. The moment of contact comes without drama. A gentle vibration travels through the hull, a shiver more felt than heard. On deck, some passengers pause, unsure if they sensed anything at all. Inside, a soft tearing sound echoes faintly along the steel, like fabric pulled slowly apart. Most notice nothing unusual. A steward later describes it as a slight jar. But below the waterline, the reality is clearer. Plates are pushed inward, seams part. Water enters in cold, dark surges across boiler room floors. The ocean does not rush or roar. It simply flows where space has opened. Within minutes, officers and engineers move quickly through the ship's forward compartments. Their lanterns swing across rising water, reflecting on the surface like scattered stars. Men in work clothes stand ankle-deep, then calf-deep, surprised at the speed of the flooding. Bulkheads are checked, pumps are discussed. Damage is measured in quiet exchanges. Feet of water, numbers of compartments compromised. Thomas Andrews, the ship's designer, arrives and assesses the situation with calm precision. He examines the angle, the flooding rate, the breached bulkheads. His judgment is soft-spoken but certain. Too many compartments are open to the sea. Titanic will not stay afloat. Up on the boat deck, officers begin preparations. Passengers are asked to put on life belts and come up dressed warmly. The mood is curious, almost relaxed. The ship beneath them feels steady, brightly lit, reassuring. Some question the need to leave their cabins. Others step outside into the cold night air, adjusting straps on their life belts with mild puzzlement. Ropes are checked, davits examined. The band continues to play inside, providing gentle familiarity in a moment that still feels, to many, like an exercise rather than an emergency. The list of the ship is slight, hardly noticeable. A subtle shift in balance. The first lifeboats are swung out over the water. Officers call for women and children, but hesitation lingers. The sea below is dark and still, and the wooden boats seem small compared to Titanic's immense glowing structure. Some boats depart partially filled, simply because people feel safer remaining aboard a ship that appears calm and level. Soft voices drift through the night. Crew members give quiet instructions. Passengers stand wrapped in blankets or overcoats, watching with mixed curiosity and uncertainty. Somewhere behind them, the band continues playing, a gentle thread of sound drifting into the cold air. Minutes become an hour, and the change becomes undeniable. The bow settles lower. The list grows subtly but persistently. Walking the deck now requires a slight tilt of balance. Lifeboats depart more quickly. Voices sharpen just enough to signal urgency without raising alarm. White rockets rise into the sky, brief blossoms of light swallowed by darkness. Far off on the horizon, a faint glow seems to flicker from another ship. Too distant, too still. Titanic remains brightly lit, her decks calm under the stars, even as the ocean begins its slow claim. The night deepens, and its cold becomes more defined. The deck beneath your feet carries a faint, persistent tilt now, not sharp, but unmistakable. Passengers gather near the band, whose music floats through the open air like a steady reassurance. Some people talk softly, wrapped in blankets handed out by stewards. Others stand quietly at the rail, looking into the still, dark water. The calm of the sea feels at odds with the subtle urgency forming around them. Lifeboats leave with fewer empty seats now. Confusion gives way to acceptance. A sense of gentle inevitability settles over the deck as time moves forward. Far below, deep inside the ship, the atmosphere is entirely different. A world far removed from the cold, star-filled night. In the boiler rooms and engine spaces, engineers and firemen work with measured determination. Steam valves hiss softly. Pumps beat with mechanical rhythm. Water rises in slow, steady lines along bulkheads. They keep the dynamos running, ensuring the lights above stay bright for as long as possible. Their environment is warm, almost stifling, a stark contrast to the freezing air above. These men work without hesitation, knowing that as long as power flows, others have a chance to reach the deck, the boats, the night sky. Their effort holds back darkness for everyone else. In the wireless room, sparks leap across instruments, illuminating the small cabin with gentle flashes. Operators tap steadily, first CQD, then SOS, the newer signal. Titanic's position is repeated again and again. They receive faint replies from several ships. Carpathia reports she is coming at full speed, though distant. Another ship appears closer on the horizon, but remains strangely silent. The uncertainty adds weight to the operators' movements, but they continue with unwavering focus. The cabin tilts a little more as they send message after message into the night, connecting the ship to the wider world, one signal at a time. Walk now among the passengers still on board. Decisions take quiet shape. Who will go? Who will stay? Who will separate for a time, hoping to meet again? Some husbands help their wives and children into boats, offering gentle words of reassurance. Others stand back, choosing to remain together rather than be parted. Families hold hands, exchanging soft promises. The deck angle deepens, almost imperceptibly, but enough to set chairs sliding toward the rail. Water creeps steadily up along the forward well deck, yet the lights remain bright, casting a warm, steady glow across the scene, making everything feel suspended, neither frantic nor calm, just quietly unfolding. Now step back in your mind, as if watching from the still surface of the sea. Titanic's bow lies deeply submerged. Her stern rises against the stars at an impossible angle. The sight carries a solemn, mechanical strain. Steel shaped by human ambition, meeting forces older than memory. Inside, objects slip from shelves. Furniture shifts. The immense weight of the ship pulls against itself. There is no roar, no explosion, just a deep, muted release as the structure reaches its limits. Titanic breaks, bow and stern following separate arcs into the cold darkness below. From a lifeboat some distance away, the night feels vast. The sea is flat and black, disturbed only by the quiet dip of oars. Breath fogs in the freezing air. Blankets rustle softly as people huddle close. Facing the ship, you see her lights rise, tilt, and then vanish as power finally fails. A sudden darkness settles where brightness stood moments before. For a brief span of time, the ocean is silent, a pause so complete that it seems the world itself is holding its breath. Only the cold remains constant. Hours stretch slowly across the lifeboats. Lamps burn low, casting small pools of light. People speak quietly, if at all. The cold presses through layers of fabric, settling into hands and faces, despite every attempt to keep warm. Above, the stars drift in their ancient patterns. Below, the sea holds its calm, reflecting only the movement of oars or the faint glow of distant rockets. Then, a new light appears on the horizon, small at first, then brighter, resolving into the shape of another ship. Carpathia. Voices call across the water. Lifeboats begin to row toward the rescuing vessel, hope rising with each measured stroke. Aboard Carpathia, crew members guide survivors up rope ladders and cargo nets with steady hands. Blankets are wrapped around shoulders still trembling from the cold. Hot drinks are pressed into chilled fingers. Some survivors stare ahead in silence. Others weep softly, overwhelmed by the sudden warmth and safety. Cabins are given up by passengers so families can stay together. Doctors move among the rescued with calm professionalism. As Carpathia turns toward New York, the sea behind her holds only debris and a wide, empty stretch of water. The night begins to lighten, a thin gray line appearing along the horizon, signaling dawn after one of the longest nights the Atlantic has ever known. Carpathia approaches New York beneath a sky softened by early morning cloud. Word of the disaster has already reached the shore, carried by telegraph lines that moved faster than any ship. Crowds gather along the piers, families searching for familiar faces, journalists holding notebooks, and onlookers drawn by disbelief. As survivors disembark, their steps are slow, weighted by the long night behind them. Some scan the crowd anxiously, hoping for reunion. Others keep their gaze low, holding blankets tight around their shoulders. Cameras click softly. The city around them hums with life, unaware of the enormity carried in the quiet footsteps now entering it. Titanic's story moves from ocean to land, from experience to memory. Across the Atlantic and in America, inquiries begin. Large wooden rooms fill with rows of chairs, polished tables, and careful stacks of documents. Witnesses give their accounts in calm voices. Officers, sailors, stewards, survivors from every class, wireless operators and shipbuilders. Diagrams of Titanic are unrolled and pinned to boards. Questions trace the path of messages, the number of lifeboats, the decisions made on deck, the speed maintained before the collision. There is no anger in the room, only a steady search for clarity. Piece by piece, a picture forms of events shaped by assumptions, confidence, routine, and the enduring unpredictability of the North Atlantic. From these inquiries, new rules take shape. Lifeboats are required for all aboard, not just a portion. Crews practice regular drills. Wireless sets must be attended around the clock, not just during the day. International agreements strengthen cooperation in the North Atlantic. An ice patrol is established to chart bergs and send warnings to ships long before danger crosses their path. The ocean remains powerful and indifferent, but oversight becomes more deliberate. A quiet legacy of lives lost and lessons learned. Years pass, and Titanic settles into public memory. Books are written, some measured, others dramatic. Lectures are given, exhibits assembled, newspaper illustrations printed by the thousands. Later, films add sound and motion to the story, shaping how new generations imagine that April night. Survivors live out their years in different ways. Some speak openly of their experiences. Others rarely mention the ship again. Each carries moments no diagram or inquiry could capture. A voice in the darkness, the feel of cold air, the sound of distant music, the light of a flare rising into the sky. History condenses their countless stories into a single event, held gently across time. For decades, Titanic's exact resting place remained uncertain. Oceanographers estimated positions from last known coordinates, drift calculations, and survivor accounts. But the North Atlantic guarded its secret well. Then in 1985, a joint American-French expedition launched a search using deep-sea technology. Through dark water nearly 2.5 miles deep, cameras scanned the seabed in patient arcs. At last, a shape emerged, the familiar curve of a bow, softened by time but unmistakable. Titanic had been found. Slowly, the ship's presence in the world shifted from myth and memory to something visible again, resting quietly in the deep. Drift now, through the silent world of the wreck. Remote lights illuminate railings twisted by pressure, portholes staring into water, and iron transformed into delicate rusticles, reddish formations that sway gently with underwater currents. Inside, chandeliers lie where ceilings have collapsed. Cabin walls have softened into shapes almost organic. A grand staircase once filled with polished wood now exists only in fragments beneath layers of silt. No voices remain here, no movement of passengers or crew. Only the slow work of time and the quiet of the deep ocean wrapping itself around a vessel once filled with sound, light, and ambition. Return to the surface world. where Titanic's story continues in places shaped by remembrance. In Belfast, near the slipways where the ship was built, a museum stands with glass walls rising where the gantry once towered. Inside, galleries recreate shipyard life, drawing offices and rooms from the ship itself. Elsewhere, exhibitions display recovered artifacts, china, letters, jewelry, small items once carried by people whose footsteps echoed through Titanic's corridors. Visitors move slowly through these spaces, reading labels, imagining the hands that held each object. The story becomes more than an event. It becomes individual lives remembered. And finally, step back to view the entire arc of this story. A ship conceived in confidence, built with pride, filled with people carrying hope, ambition, routine, and dreams of new beginnings. A calm night at sea, a sudden shift, a loss felt across continents, and an echo carried through generations by memory, inquiry, art, and discovery. Titanic endures not simply because she was large or luxurious, but because she gathered so many human stories into one moment, each one fragile, each one significant. Under a cold, starlit sky, ambition and vulnerability shared the same deck, and through her legacy, the world learned to see both more clearly. Let your thoughts drift now, gently, through everything you have seen. Walk once more through Titanic in memory. The early morning shipyard in Belfast, the quiet discipline of workers shaping steel, the glow of fresh paint in unfinished corridors, the calm routines of days at sea, the stillness of that starlit night, and the long span of years that followed. These moments soften as they rise together, blending into one continuous echo. Hammer blows, footsteps, music, wireless signals, the hush of deep water. In this quiet light, Titanic becomes something more than steel or tragedy. She becomes a shape of effort, hope, and human connection. A brief illumination on the surface of a vast ocean. Here for a moment, then carried onward by time. Return now to your own room, to the quiet around you. The sounds you hear are small and familiar. Perhaps the distant hum of a heater, the soft creak of a settling floor, or nothing at all but the gentle rhythm of your own breathing. Outside, the night lies calm, its darkness no longer an ocean, but still wide, deep, and peaceful. Titanic's story settles into the background, part of the larger sea of memory, a reminder of ambition, resilience, and the passage of time. Here, you are safe, steady, and warm. Let the world soften as you rest, thoughts quieting like waves losing energy on a distant shore. The night is yours now, and the ocean is still.